Welcome to the first episode of the Unfiltered Teapodcast. The truth is everyone's cup of tea, and at the Unfiltered Teapodcast, we'll bring you the unbridled truths from the mouth of seasoned professionals and industry experts. I'm very excited to be on this show today because with me, I have a very special guest. He's the immediate past Speaker of the Edo State House of Assembly and is the House of Representative member representing Esan West, Esan Central, and Igwebe Federal Constituency. He also doubles as the Chairman House Committee on Rural Development. It's good to have him in our place today. It's going to be very exciting and it's going to be very engaging. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you so much. I'm glad to be here.
Can you just give us a brief history about yourself?
Anyway, like you've rightly introduced, I'm Right Honorable Marcus Onobun. I hail from Irekpe, Esan West in Edo State. I'm in Nigeria. And by the grace of God, a representative of the people. I serve the people of Nigeria, starting from my federal constituency, Esan West, Esan Central, and Igwebe Federal Constituency. I'm a legislator, and I've been through the State House of Assembly, rose to the rank of being the Speaker of the House, and today I am happily representing my people.
If I recall correctly, you were the youngest speaker. As at the time you were speaker, I think you were the youngest speaker for the House in the whole of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. So I want you to just give us a brief history on your political journey. How do you decide that this is what you want to do, and what were those characteristics, those leadership qualities that made you stand out amongst your peers, that in the House, on the state level, you were chosen to lead the House despite your youthful age?
Well, basically, mine is passion for service, and every opportunity I have and position that I find myself, I try to make that opportunity very useful. When I had the privilege of getting to the Edo State House of Assembly, coming in first, I joined, the ranks of my colleagues, to do the needful. And it will interest you to know that amongst every, one of them, they all unanimously chose me in 2020 to become the Speaker of the State House of Assembly.
So what was that? Who was that person, or what was that attribute that motivated you to say, you know what, this is what I want to do? Because I know you have a background of I think in geography and regional planning. So I most youths will take that path and try and pursue their course of their discipline, their course of study, but you chose a totally different path. And from what you've said, you are very good at it. So what was that thing that motivated you? Who was that person that inspired you, that you knew that this was what you wanted to do?
Like you said, I got into school, to become a professional, in my academic pursuits. Ordinarily, my parents wanted me to, go to school, acquire all the degrees and become a lecturer. But interestingly, while I was carrying out all my activities in school, soon it became, it happened that, some youth advocacy, program came up, which actually snowballed into political activities. And I discovered that, a lot of people out there actually suffer because you don't find people speak for them. And that was actually the propelling force. While I left school, I chose youth advocacy, community advocacy, try to see how we can speak up to the government on the basic needs for our people. So I actually stood out to always speak truth to power at every given opportunity. And so now I discovered that actually made me stand out amongst my peers to practically speak, on behalf of my constituents, to the people of Edo State, and in this case now, through the people of my federal constituency, to the people of Nigeria.
Wonderful. How do you handle criticism, and how do you handle opposition in the face of you standing true and firm on your beliefs?
Again, I had the privilege of coming into mainstream politics through the opposition. I didn't have the privilege of joining the mainstream party that was in government. I try as much as possible and my quiet time to listen to the voice of the opposition. Because most times the opposition is not just to criticize you or criticize your policies and programs, but rather if you listen, carefully without malice, you'll find that, part of or majority of what they're talking about is actually to put you right on what you're doing. And if you think that, it's actually a right criticism, you should be able to yield to such call. And basically, like I said, mine is to speak for the people. And if that's the case, it means that I must always listen to what they're saying, and at the same time, the things they haven't said. And again, that has also guided me. And of course, the feedback, from the people. So as a leader, once you take a decision, don't just conclude that, the decision you're taking is final. You have to at least get the feedback. The feedback you get from the people actually help you to understand whether your decision actually sits well with them or otherwise. If it sits well with them, it's fine. Most time you can even embellish such, policies and program. But if it doesn't sit with them, then you listen, what do they want? And most time, not that they are completely right, but there are times that they may see it from a different, perspective. So it's also left for you as a leader who is in a privileged position, to make them understand certain benefits for such policies and programs. So basically, it's a very tough one, to find yourself in leadership position. But, once you're prepared for such an office, it's not going to be a big deal. So once those challenges come, you certainly brace up, to deal with it.
It's good now to see that there's a change in youth, not just leadership, in youthful leadership, where the needs of the people are prioritized before projects are executed. So that brings me to the next question. How do you communicate with your constituents? How do you get their needs? How do you know what they want? Because I know in some communities you'll give them borehole, but they'll say probably they want a market, or you want to do street lights for them, but they just want you to fence the government school there because maybe people are encroaching in the land. So that brings me to the question: how do you? What will I say, the structure you've put in place, since you already have prior experience before coming to the National Assembly? So let's start from the State Assembly. How were you able to harness the needs, gather the needs of the people?
What brought me into politics is service. And if you're here to serve, it means that you must listen to your people. And if I reel out the project that we have done right from the State Assembly till today that I'm in National Assembly, you'll find that these are people demanded projects. I call it that way. I don't necessarily need to tell any community that I have this for you. I do my documentation on what the community actually needs. I give example. There's a certain community in my federal constituency that told me at some point that they wanted electricity, and we're working on it. And midway, they came and told me that, the need has changed and that they've been able to, get some respite in terms of electricity. So what they need now is a solar borehole. So I had to make sure that, they get a solar borehole. And interestingly, since we've given that community the solar borehole, the community owned it. In fact, the community, they take responsibility for everything that happens at that particular, project. So if you listen to the people on a need assessment base, on their needs, I'm not sure that there's going to be really any project cited anywhere in Nigeria that will be vandalized. But if people wake up and they just see project that they didn't ask for, nobody takes responsibility, for it. So
involved in a ghastly motor accident. So is this something you want to tell us about it? What your journey has been so far concerning that? It's an experience that I know it would have taken a lot from you. Mentally, psychologically, financially, and everything. But this is, I think, is this something you would like to share?
Shortly after I moved the motion on the deplorable condition of the federal roads in the country, Unfortunately, I was the first victim, after that motion was moved on the floor of the house. I got involved, like you said, in a ghastly motor accident, and I say it's interesting because if you see the scene of that accident and the remains of the, vehicle, I'm sure that you thank God for me. So I thank God for life that I'm here speaking with you today. So I'm still dealing with that health challenge, but I believe that in a couple of months I'll be, fully back on my feet. But then again, it's one challenge that, I believe that every great man in life will have to go through. So it has come and gone. Just, in a few months, I believe I'll be fully, back. But the utmost task is the representation, service to my people. And I must tell you that as far as I have life, as far as I have the energy to speak, as far as I'm able to move around, I will still continually represent my people through the federal constituency and also represent Nigerians.
Wow. I can say I can hear it from your voice, the passion to actually give your people very good representation. So that accident actually put you as one of the, as in it put you face to face with the health system of Nigeria. So, when people, if you don't experience something firsthand, then understand you can't really speak to it. So, we've had a president of this country that had to be flown abroad, and upon all the resources that were channeled into his head, we lost him. One of the best presidents we never had, President Umaru Musa Yar'Adua, is yet to so rest in peace. So that's your encounter. That's your first frontier encounter with the health system of Nigeria. What do you have to say? How has that driven your passion to develop the healthcare system in the rural areas in your constituency where you are from? That first encounter, can you speak about it? What can you say about the health system in Nigeria? What is if someone in your position can go through that? Do you understand? What's the hope for the common man?
Okay, well, for me, again, this, just help to recall the sad event that actually happened on the 19th of July 2023. Interestingly, I got involved in this ghastly motor accident at about 7:30 a.m. in the morning, and the first health attention I could get was at about 10 a.m., where I'm told, by the time I started recovering, that, they didn't do a good job. They got my leg infected. And from that first facility, before they could transport me to the first public facility in Benin, it was about 7 to 8 hours later. So the accident happened at about 7 a.m. and the time I could, assess the first, basic and good medical facilities, so to speak, was at about 6 p.m. in the evening. And what was basically responsible was as a reason of the bad roads, because between the Okwila, Benin, Auchi roads, it was not motorable, so we had to go through some hinterland to find a way to. So at some point, I was just asking God, like, do you want me to go this way when I was in the ambulance? So it's not just the health facility in the first place. Assessing those health facilities is another challenge, and again, after I'd left Edo to Abuja, where, I started getting some specialist care, I discovered that it would have been better for me to have just come to Abuja from the scene of the accident than going back to, Benin. So I was in Benin. Yes, they gave me all the medical first aid or what have you. But I discovered that no attention was actually paid properly, to the wound sites, within that point. So by the time I got to the first specialist that I got to here in Abuja, so I was told that, the medical attention I'd gotten earlier wasn't good enough, and the fracture site had actually begun to, react to some debris, from the site of the accident, and the rest is history. So by and large, if you ask me, like, what's the health rating in Nigeria, for me, is not good enough. And again, it's not just left to make that complaint. What are we doing to fix the health system? And this is the reason why I think what has happened to me happened, for some of us to look at it, because if this didn't happen, maybe we would not have had the privilege of looking into the activities of the health sector. So much times I see that there are protests here and there by the medical practitioners, trying to call government attention to certain basic facilities that they need for healthcare and all of that. So as a lawmaker, ours is to make laws for the good governance of the country, and to also appropriate for funds that will be spent. So I've taken it upon myself, also reaching out to my colleagues, so that we can advocate for more funding. It will interest you to know that what you find that they call primary health centers are just mere buildings that are shadow of themselves. Nothing is in there. You can't even walk into the place and find gloves, and you don't even find the basic items that they use in taking delivery and what have you. Now that I have been able to say these things, I have taken it upon myself to say, as part of my constituency outreach, we will always try to finance health equipment for health centers. And apart from just funding those health equipments and facilities for the health centers, I've also taken it upon myself to build from scratch, as a legacy project, a medical center in Okuta Ebele, as part of my constituency. We did not just build it from the forest. It's been completed. It's been furnished with, in fact, it's a 20 bed space capacity, for, in fact, that place, there was no any health, facility around. And we made sure that we gave them borehole. We provided electricity. There's a generating set, just so that they don't have the medical practitioner don't have any excuse. So that we've been able to do, in the community of Ebele. And it's not just for Ebele alone, because Ebele, you have other communities like Amaho, Ogu, Igwebe, Ogwa, Ojogba within that axis. And Ogwa is known for treating, this traditional treatment of bones and all of that. So if these people, they actually practice these orthodox, ways of treating, bone fractures and all of that. So it means that if they have some slight knowledge about medicinal application in terms of medicals and modern medicine, it will help them, improve on, some of the challenge. And again, also help them to assess, because most time when you go through this orthodox way of treating, orthopedics, they don't really go through the process of having access to, investigations like X-ray, CT scan, and what have you. So what we have tried to do is to say, no, you know what? Let us bring these medical facilities closer to the people so that they can assess, this. So for me, like I said earlier, that it's a sad one that this happened, but it's been interesting times for me, because it's giving me the opportunity to actually refocus my mind on the needs of the people.
Fantastic. That was a very touching and emotional story and journey, and we thank God for your life. That I know that balance, that thing they always say, Nigeria, don't let Nigeria happen to you. It's sad that a journey of maybe 1 hour, 2 hours, it took 8 hours. When on getting there, the public institution, the government-owned institution could not provide for 5 days. Provide service. That the ailment now deteriorated, and we just thank God that you had the resources to take proper care of yourself, and because of that, others will benefit from your experience. You cited how while you were on your hospital bed, you were donating medical equipment to primary health centers in your constituency. In your 100 days in office, you just mentioned you built a primary health care facility, put water, facility, furnished it, put a generator there. So it's almost like from the experience, it give you this wake up call to put some basic things there so that you don't have to travel miles. Lives can be lost before you get to the hospital. You can access it within kilometers, which is very commendable and my honorable. So I would ask you now, I think we will delve into issues. We want to get your filtered truth on general opinions that we think, Nigerians are debating it on the social media space, as it's affecting us every day. So we want to get as a legislator, because we believe most of the acts, most of the bills that govern almost all the agencies were set up by the National Assembly. So you have not just first-hand experience, you are part and parcel of the law. So there's this issue of that came up, I think, 2 weeks ago, concerning the Inspector General of Police, his retirement. And I think he had a spat with Sowore. Sowore called him the illegal IGP. But he is standing on the notion that he was appointed, and there was an act that was either bill was an act, and the act police officer was amended to say that if you are appointed, you can serve out your term of appointment even if your retirement age comes before. I would like you to speak to that. What does it portray for the service and the morale of the police force in general?
Okay,
what does the law say concerning that?
Okay, thank you so much. I like the end part of your question. What does this portray for the service and morale of our officers? First, I would like to draw your attention to the Police Service Act.
Okay.
I think the section 18(8) of the Police Service Act says that every police officer at recruitment shall stay in service for 35 years, or when he attains 60 years of age, whichever that comes first. It means that if you were recruited into the police force at 18 and you have 35 years to serve in service, so you'll be retiring at 53 or thereabout. So also, if you were appointed at age 25 and you serve 35 years, you'll be retiring at 60. If you were recruited at 30, you don't have to wait for age 35. When you clock 60, you would have retired. Now, these have a way of actually demoralizing or actually boosting the morals of the police officers, because once you are in service, you look up to your retirement. And at every point, every officer in government, whether the police or any form of civil service, you look forward to your promotion and look forward to what you can contribute within the time frame while you are in government. But in this case, what has been, talked about is basically the amendment clause that was sent by the president for National Assembly to approve the powers that if Mr. President appoints an Inspector General of Police, that the Inspector General of Police have a tenure of 4 years, which can either be renewed, but as the case may be, pending on whatever the president chooses. But the question I ask all the time when this debate comes up is, which actually comes first? Because the law does not permit Mr. President to appoint the Inspector General of Police outside the police force.
So it's almost like the case of the chicken and the egg, which comes first. So do we go with the president, the newly amended parts of the Police Act that says that the president has the right to appoint the Inspector General of Police, and the president is not entitled to must serve out the 4 years of the term he is appointed for, or whatever the president decides is the tenure of the appointment? Or do we stick to the act that says that for you to be a policeman, this is the guiding principle? You are to retire 35 years in service or at the attainment of 60 years of age, whichever comes first. So in this case, which do you think we should go for? Because and also I want you said something initially that it's also the morale of the policemen. So because we know that if we go by the tenure of the appointments, then there are some police officers that probably after the IG retires, they were supposed to be appointed to the position of IG, which means they might retire without attaining that position. So what does it spell for? Because this is just in the case of the police force. I mean, there's the army, there's navy, there's immigration, and we know that the heads of the apex of that profession has to be one person, either the CGC for customs, the IGP for police, chief of army staff. So what does it spell if we decide to let them go beyond that tenure? What does it spell for the morale of the officers that were supposed to fill that position if they are just retired? That's number one. Then number two, we want to speak to the acts. We have so many, there are so many it's almost like contradictory and laws. Does the new one that has just been added, does it now repeal the old one? So this is where Nigerians are trying to get a grasp of what is happening. As a lawmaker, what do you think can be done to mitigate all these loopholes we see in our acts and policies?